Shedeur Sanders just did the unthinkable. He turned down the Baltimore Ravens, a rookie, a fifth-round pick, looking a playoff contender with a two-time MVP quarterback in the eye and saying, "No thanks." Let that sink in. The Ravens were ready, papers in hand, expecting to add him to their QB room behind Lamar Jackson. And Shedeur Sanders, son of Coach Prime, may have moved so bold it sent shockwaves across the NFL. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. He said he wasn't interested in sitting behind anyone, not even Lamar. He wanted to play right now. And Baltimore? They moved on. 3 picks later, the Cleveland Browns swooped in. Just like that, chaos. The internet exploded. Twitter threads lit up like fireworks. ESPN, FS1, every podcast with a microphone. Everyone had a take. Stephen A. Smith nearly lost his voice over it. Cam Newton dropped his perspective with the authority of someone who's been there. And fans? Half were calling it genius. Half were calling it career suicide. Because this wasn't just a rookie decision. This was a statement. A fifth-rounder telling the league, "I'm not here to hold a clipboard. I'm here to play." Old-school coaches were horrified. You could practically hear them slamming clipboards across the country. A rookie? Turning down a playoff team? What's happening to the game? For decades, the playbook was simple. You go where you're drafted, you pay your dues, you wait your turn. But Shedeur? He just flipped that entire tradition on its head. Here's the thing. This was always going to be controversial. Baltimore is stability. Baltimore is structure. Baltimore is Lamar Jackson, a living masterclass in how to handle the weight of a franchise. Sitting behind him for 2 or 3 years could have been priceless. Watching how he studies defenses, how he commands a huddle, how he takes hits and still gets up, that's education no coach can script. But Shedeur didn't want the classroom. He wanted the field. And Cleveland, forever chaotic, forever rebuilding, was willing to hand him that shot. And let's be honest, this is more than football. This is personal. Shedeur has been doubted at every step. Is he really that good or just riding the Dion wave? Has followed him since his first big game. So when the chance came to step out from the shadow and stake his claim as QB1, even if it meant rolling the dice with the Browns, he took it. But here's the flip side. With one decision, Shedeur put a mountain of pressure on himself. Every throw, every snap, every post-game presser is now judged through the lens of. He turned down the Ravens. Every mistake, fuel for the critics. Every success, proof of his gamble. This isn't just a rookie season anymore. It's a referendum, a test of whether a 22-year-old can bet on himself, take on the NFL machine, and actually win. And if he pulls it off, Shedeur Sanders won't just be a quarterback. He'll be the guy who rewrote the rules. But if he fails, if he flames out in a dysfunctional system, gets benched, or ends up bouncing around practice squads, then this becomes the cautionary tale. The example every agent uses when telling their rookie client, "See? Don't do what Shedeur did." That's why Stephen A.'s warning feels so heavy. Don't waste talent. Not because Shedeur isn't talented, but because the league doesn't care how talented you are if you make the wrong first move. It's like chess. You can have the best rook in the world, but if you put it in the wrong spot too early, it gets taken off the board. Meanwhile, let's talk about Lamar Jackson for a second. Because in all this noise, the man at the center of the backup debate just kept being Lamar, calm, professional, focused, not throwing shade, not doing interviews, just preparing for another season as the face of Baltimore. And the thing is, he would have been a phenomenal mentor. Lamar is not just a leader on the field. He's a story. A QB who changed the way people see the position. A guy who was doubted, dragged, told he should switch positions, and then went on to win MVPs and carry a franchise. The lessons he could have passed on to Shedeur? Priceless. But now, that door is closed. Shedeur picked a different path. He chose chaos over comfort, urgency over structure, risk over routine. So now we all wait. We wait for Cleveland's training camp. for that first preseason snap, for the first interception or touchdown or headline that reads, "The decision, did Shedeur bet too big?" And while we wait, we talk, because this story is everything we love about football drama, legacy, ego, generational shifts, and high-stakes choices. It's not about what should have happened. It's about what did happen and what comes next. Because this league, it doesn't have a rewind button. So if you're Shedeur Sanders and you just told one of the best-run organizations in the NFL, "No, I've got a better idea," you better be right. You better walk into Cleveland and light it up. You better show poise, precision, and presence. Because if you don't, no amount of hype, name recognition, or Deion Sanders press conferences is going to save you from the noise. And here's the kicker. The NFL loves a comeback, but it also never forgets the flop. So what do you think? Did Shedeur make the ultimate power move, or just jump the gun on the biggest decision of his life? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's argue, speculate, and maybe even manifest a Browns playoff run just to keep the storyline spicy. And hey, if you love this kind of football chaos, bold choices, hot takes, and quarterback melodrama, go ahead and subscribe. Because in a league where rookies are turning down MVP mentors and choosing mayhem over mentorship, you already know we're not done talking about it. Shedeur Sanders didn't just say no to the Ravens. He said no to tradition, no to sitting in the shadows, no to paying his dues in silence. And in doing that, he joined a very exclusive club of athletes who dare to believe the system could be bent, maybe even broken. And if we're being honest, it's kind of thrilling to watch. But thrilling doesn't mean smart. And smart doesn't always win in the NFL. Because for every player who takes a road less traveled and makes history, there are 5 more who vanish before Thanksgiving. And right now, Shedeur's walking that tightrope. Cameras flashing, no net below. Let's zoom in on the pressure cooker. That is now Cleveland. Yeah, Cleveland. It's not exactly known for quarterback stability, is it? This is a team where promising careers go to be tested, dissected, and occasionally sacrificed to the football gods in the form of 3-win seasons and heartbreaking field goal attempts. So when Shedeur's camp looked at that quarterback room and said, "Yes, this is where we can make magic," you have to wonder, what was the pitch? Did they see an opening in the depth chart? Did they hear whispers that a change was coming? Or did they just think, "We'd rather fight for a shot than sit with certainty"? Because let's not forget, sitting behind Lamar Jackson might have meant no snaps this year or next year or even the year after that. The man is not going anywhere. He's in his prime. He's locked in. He's beloved. You're not walking into Baltimore and accidentally becoming the starter. You'd need divine intervention or a catastrophic injury, and nobody's hoping for that. So maybe Shedeur looked at the calendar and said, "I don't have 3 years to wait for the perfect moment. I want the imperfect moment now." It's risky, but it's real. And this is where the generational divide really kicks in. Because the old guard, the Stephen A. S., the Cam Newtons, the legacy quarterbacks who walked up both ways to earn their spot, they look at Shedeur's decision and see arrogance. But Gen Z, they see agency. They see a young athlete refusing to let his career be shaped by draft politics and hierarchy. They see a guy who understands branding, leverage, and the brutal economics of the NFL, where waiting often means disappearing. And whether you agree or not, it's working. Because no one's talking about the quarterback the Ravens did draft. They're talking about the one who wouldn't let them. But let's talk about what happens next. Because the headlines are cute. The tweets are loud. But what happens when Shedeur walks into that Browns facility? What happens when a media blitz fades and it's just him, a helmet, and a playbook thicker than a college textbook? Because this ain't Boulder anymore. There are no custom Louis Vuitton suit fittings before the game. There's no Coach Prime pep talk before every snap. This is a league. These are grown men playing for contracts, legacy, and food on the table. And you better believe those vets in the locker room are watching. They're watching how he studies, how he talks, how he reacts when he throws 3 straight incompletions in a scrimmage and the coordinator starts yelling. They want to know, can this kid handle the storm? Because if he can't, that energy will shift fast. That's what happens in the NFL. The hype can lift you until it buries you. You think veterans are going to buy into a rookie who turned down Baltimore, because he didn't want to sit. Not unless he's earning it every day. Not unless he walks into camp with the work ethic of a walk-on and the swagger of a 10-year vet. He has to thread that needle perfectly. Because if he's even a little too cocky, it's over. If he's even a little underprepared, they'll eat him alive. Let's say he survives training camp and makes the QB2 spot. That's already a win. But let's not forget, being QB2 in Cleveland doesn't mean sit back and enjoy the ride. It means be ready to go in when the city is losing its mind. It means fans screaming from the stands to see you because they're tired of the same old losing narrative. It means stepping into chaos and being expected to fix it. That's what makes this all so deliciously dramatic. Shedeur didn't just ask for a starting role. He asked to be the answer for one of the NFL's most chaotic franchises. And now we have to sit and wait and see. Because one of two things is going to happen. Option one, he plays, he's electric, he moves the chains, he silences critics. And suddenly he's not just Deion's son, he's that dude. And the Ravens, they look like the team that missed out. Baltimore becomes a place that said, okay, fine, go ahead, and accidentally pass on a future Pro Bowler. Option two, he gets the shot, and it goes badly. Not even terribly, just mediocre. A couple of shaky games. A few rookie mistakes. Confidence wobbles. The internet flips. The told you so start flooding in. And suddenly, he's not the guy who made a bold move. He's the guy who got ahead of himself. And let's not pretend the media is going to be gentle. They've already set the stage. They're just waiting to run the segment. Should Shedeur have sat behind Lamar? And the worst part? That segment's already been written. They're just waiting for the first bad throw. Because the NFL machine, it's relentless. It's a weekly referendum on your entire identity. And once you make a decision this big, you don't just get judged on your play. You get judged on your choices. But maybe that's the whole point. Maybe Shedeur doesn't want grace. Maybe he doesn't want to be protected. Maybe he wants to be tested. He doesn't want the training wheels of being a backup. He wants the open road, traffic and all. Because pressure makes quarterbacks. Or it breaks them. And let's face it, Shedeur Sanders wants that pressure. He's not scared of being a headline. He's not scared of being doubted. He spent his whole life being told he only made it because of his last name. Now, he's out to prove it was the first name that mattered all along. So here's your final whistle. The Ravens were ready to draft Shedeur Sanders. He declined. He bet on himself. Now the lights are on. The stage is set. And the clock is ticking. Will this be remembered as the boldest move of the draft or the biggest mistake? Time will tell. But either way, you won't forget where you were when you heard it. Shedeur didn't just make a football decision when he declined Baltimore. He launched a cultural moment. He sparked a conversation not just about systems and stats, but about power, legacy, and who really gets to choose their own path in this league. Let's be honest. The NFL isn't built for quarterbacks to have this kind of control, especially not rookies, especially not fifth-rounders. The league has always functioned on a very clear hierarchy. The teams decide, the players accept, and only the elite, even the idea of the elite, get to say, nah, that's not a fit for me. But Shedeur said just that, and in doing so, he poked the bear. He said out loud what so many players wish they could, I want more than just a chance. I want the right chance. Now, whether or not Cleveland is actually the right chance, that's the million-dollar gamble. Because here's the unfiltered truth. The Browns have not been kind to quarterbacks. At all. This franchise is burned through signal callers like a Marvel reboot schedule. Talented players, smart players, even Heisman winners. They all came through Cleveland, full of hope and press conference quotes, only to fade into the gray fog of missed opportunities and locker room confusion. You want stats? You want legacies? You don't look at Cleveland. You look at Baltimore. You look at stable organizations with a winning culture, elite coaching, and a front office that doesn't fumble a rebuild every other offseason. But Shedeur chose Cleveland. He chose that fire, that smoke, that chaos. And let's be real, some part of him wants to tame it. Because if you take the Browns, and you turn them into a real threat, you're not just a good quarterback. You're a messiah. You're walking into a tortured fan base and saying, "Your suffering ends with me." And the people of Cleveland, they'll worship you forever if you do. But it's a double-edged sword, because if you fail, you're just another name added to the ever-growing graveyard of QBs who tried and died under the weight of expectations that this franchise can't seem to shake. And here's what's crazy. Shedeur knows that. He's not clueless. He's not some college kid being led around by agents and hype. This is a quarterback who's been media trained since high school, who's done press conferences with his dad, who's had cameras in his face while still figuring out what his facial hair is going to do long term. This isn't just another athlete trying to make it. This is a case study in modern sports branding, which brings us back to Lamar. Because here's the thing. You can't separate Shedeur's decision from Lamar Jackson. You can't remove the shadow of the guy he didn't want to sit behind. Lamar is everything Shedeur could have learned from. He's battled doubt. He's silenced critics. He's redefined the QB role. And he's done it all with poise, the kind of poise you can't teach in training camp. The kind of poise you get by surviving. If Shedeur had sat behind him for even a season, soaked up that knowledge, watched how Lamar handles his business week after week, he could have come out of that experience more dangerous than ever. But he didn't want to wait. And you know what? Maybe he shouldn't have to. That's what makes this moment so electric. It challenges the entire structure how we talk about earning it in the NFL. Because who gets to decide when someone's ready? The scouts? The media, the teams, or the player himself? Shedeur decided it was him. And by doing that, he walked into a narrative that's so much bigger than just football, because this is also a story about black quarterbacks taking ownership of their narrative. Historically, black QBs have been told to sit, to wait, to learn, to not be too flashy or too vocal. They've had to prove and prove, while other guys got crowned based on vibes and a good arm to combine. Shedeur flipped that. He said, "I don't need to wait in the wings. I've been ready." Whether you believe him or not, you have to respect the guts. But guts don't guarantee wins. And this is the part that should keep Shedeur up at night. Not the criticism, not the hot takes, not even the angry Ravens fans who feel slighted. What should keep him up is the sheer unforgiving nature of the NFL calendar. Because week 1 is coming. Fast. And once that ball is snapped, the excuses stop. The narrative isn't about potential anymore. It's about execution. Can he read a disguised blitz? Can he recover from a bad pick and lead a 2-minute drill? Can he control a huddle filled with grown men, some of whom have mortgages, kids, and no time for rookie drama? These are the questions that actually matter. These are the moments that define whether this decision was brave or brash. And yet, here's the twist that makes this whole saga so fascinating. No matter what happens, Shedeur already won something. He changed the conversation. He reminded every young player watching that it's okay to think like a CEO, even if you're still technically an intern. He reminded the league that talent, legacy, and personal agency aren't mutually exclusive, that quarterbacks, especially ones raised in the fire of public scrutiny, can know their value, even if it rubs people the wrong way. And that matters. Will it translate to wins? To long-term success? To a second contract? We don't know yet, but we're watching. Oh, we are definitely watching. Because now, every Sunday is an episode in the saga. Every throw is a line in the script. Every touchdown or every turnover is either proof of greatness or fuel for the haters. And either way, we're tuning in. So, let's land this plane with one final question. Was it worth it? Was declining the Ravens worth walking into the storm? Was betting on yourself this hard, this early, this publicly the right call? We'll see. But one thing's for sure, Shedeur Sanders didn't come here to be a backup. He came to be something else entirely. So stay locked in, because whether he becomes a savior of Cleveland or the subject of a cautionary tale, this story is already legendary, and we're only in Act 1. A rookie, a first-year player who hasn't taken a single NFL snap, said no to one of the most stable, respected, and well-coached franchises in the league. And not just any team, but one led by Lamar Jackson, a 2-time MVP, a generational quarterback, a guy who's done everything the hard way and come out as one of the faces of the league. And Shedeur Sanders looked at that setup and said, "Not for me." Now let's give credit where it's due. That's not just gutsy, that's spine of steel stuff. That's walking into the lion's den wearing steaks and a cologne and saying, "Let's see what happens." But it's also the kind of move that either makes you a legend or leaves you as a punchline. And right now, the jury's out. Because even if Cleveland hands Shedeur the keys tomorrow, nothing in the NFL comes easy. We've seen too many careers rise too fast and crash even faster. It's not about hype. It's not even about talent. It's about what you do with the moment when you finally get it. And here's the irony that's been sitting under the surface this whole time. Shedeur Sanders could have learned how to navigate those moments by watching Lamar Jackson up close. He could have spent a season studying under one of the most composed, adaptable quarterbacks in the league. He could have sharpened his mind while staying healthy, build his brand without burning it. Instead, he chose a fire. And now the spotlight isn't a luxury. It's a requirement. He has to perform. He has to produce. He has to prove week after week that he wasn't just flexing at the draft, that he belongs. Because make no mistake, if Shedeur doesn't shine, the Wolves will be waiting. Talk shows will feast. The league, it won't wait for him to catch up. That's the cold part. The NFL doesn't have a pause button. It moves forward with or without you. So, here's your final play call. Folks, Shedeur Sanders had a chance to learn from a star. He turned it down to chase his own spotlight. Now he's got it. The only question left is, can he handle it? Let us know your take in the comments. Was this the biggest flex of the draft or the biggest fumble? And don't forget to subscribe, because in the NFL, the drama never ends and neither do the hot takes.